Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday before Thanksgiving, if that's a thing you do. I know a lot of y'all are international, so I'm sure that's fairly meaningless to you, but if I do have any American friends in the chat, happy almost Thanksgiving, y'all. All right, so today we are... I know a lot of y'all are internationals. Huh, okay, so it looks like it took a second to launch. I don't know. Yeah, so... Oh, it's the Rabbite. Hello, Rabbite. Anyway, yep. We are going live here. Sorry if I have to repeat myself. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure I was live when I was speaking, so... I want to say happy Thanksgiving if you're in the United States. If you're not in the United States, or happy almost Thanksgiving, it's tomorrow, obviously. If you're not in the United States, I know that's meaningless to you, but I feel like maybe we are no longer live, or I feel like maybe we are no longer live, or are we still streaming? Okay. I guess it's I think my Wi-Fi is having some trouble. I don't know what's going on, y'all. Is it hung up on that end? Okay, yeah. So, yeah, hopefully this will work. It worked last week. My internet at the house is a little squirrely. New place. As I was saying about the studio, I don't know if I got cut off. The studio, you can probably see it behind me. It started to take shape, but it's still in pieces. I'm going to go over the differences. We'll delve into that a bit later into the thing. To those friends in the chat, you should let me know if it locks up or whatever. I don't know if I can do anything on my end or not, but it's good to know anyway if I'm not actually broadcasting or whatever. And we'll just fight through it. We'll do the best we can, because what else can you do? Okay, so this is the opsix native plugin. Right now I just have a default patch up. We can play some of the patches and kind of explore the presets a little bit as we go here. But I'm going to do a tour and review like I did with the Mini Freak and Pigments plugins over the last 2 weeks. And we'll just kind of see what it's about. Now, if you have joined me in the past for FM programming streams with the opsix, then you're probably already relatively familiar with it. But I'm going to assume this is your first time seeing it for the tour purposes. So if this is overlap for previous streams, I apologize. However, what I'm not going to do is go into the intricacies of FM programming. I'll talk about it a little bit, of course, just in the course of reviewing the thing, but I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of how FM works and how to get basic, techniques and tools with it. I have a couple streams already on that, and a couple with Operator, a couple with opsix. So if that's something that you want or need, you can definitely go and look at the archive streams on the web or on my website. I think I have them actually archived on there in a playlist as well on etherdiver.com. But for the sake of essentially for the opsix hardware and also of the opsix Mark II hardware, the only difference between the opsix and the opsix Mark II hardware is the polyphony. That's it. There's no functional differences in terms of the engines. It says in terms of the engines. It's possible that the second edition hardware has aftertouch built into the keyboard. It always responded to aftertouch, the synth engine did. So for the plugin, it doesn't matter. But for the hardware, if you don't have another controller, I'm not positive about that. I know the one I have, the opsix original, does not have aftertouch on the keyboard, even though it does respond to it. It's not a great controller keyboard anyway. You could use it for one if you Well, that's good. Yeah, it's probably my internet here at the house is what's happening. I don't really know for sure. My kids are on the internet. They're home from school. They're on the internet. They might be sucking up a lot of bandwidth. So that might be what's going on. I apologize. And like I said, I'm still figuring out the internet out. I've definitely had troubles in my office for some reason. No one else in the house seems to have troubles, but I have had troubles. Lucky me. So if this is a mess, I apologize. And we'll just have to make it work. And maybe I can get it figured out for next week. Okay, opsix plugin. There's no differences in the hardware versions, essentially. Nothing practical. Polyphony went up in the Mark II, but unless you're doing like really fat unison patches, you are never going to hit that polyphony limit anyway. That's my take on it. It's like 24 or 28 voices of polyphony in the original, and something like 64 in the Mark II. So it's way up there. And it's a monotembral synth. It's not, you can't play 6 different sounds on it at once. So it's not like you're going to be using it old school wise, with multiple different sounds firing at the same time. In the plugin version, obviously you can layer as many versions of the plugin as you want, so you could do a whole track with just this. Okay, enough hemming and hawing. We're 8 minutes in. Let's just go ahead and do this. So this is a 6-operator FM synth. Again, I assume you know what that means. It is what I would call DX7 style FM or DX style FM, which is to say it's actually phase modulation, if you're familiar with the back end kind of stuff. The reasons for that, as I understand it, are mostly technical. It's less computationally intensive to modify the phase than it is to modify the frequency for some reason. And so that's why the DX7 did it that way, and you get substantially identical results. So they're not fully identical, but they're substantially identical. They're pretty close. I have done a little bit of experimentation on with plugins that do both frequency and phase modulation, and to the ear, there's definitely like a few weird spots in the modulation, sort of as you go up in modulation, where it'll sound slightly different, but overall it sounds very, very similar. But just a little technical note. But anyway, 6-operator FM. And at its heart, it is a 6-operator DX-style FM synth with a few added extras. Those added extras would include a filter, a couple extra envelopes, and an effects unit at the end. And if you just want to use it as a souped-up DX7 with those things added and never touch any of the, what do they call them, like altered FM elements, like this is an incredible synth just for that. Like if you just want a clean, easy to program, makes sense, beautifully designed FM synthesizer with an effects section and a filter to like fine-tune your sounds, this is a immensely fantastic and satisfying synth for that. I'll get into the interface a little better, but it is a brilliantly designed interface. It's a brilliantly designed FM, and it gets the job done for that. Now, but in addition to that, it is the altered FM, and in addition, what you've got is that each operator, in addition to being an FM operator, can also act as to do ring mod. So instead of altering the frequency, you can alter the or modulate the amplitude. It can have a filter unit, which is to say that operator will be replaced, rather than doing FM, just has a filter, so inputs whatever, and then it can also be have a wave folder, which if you're familiar with sort of East Coast style synthesis or just wave folders in general, wave folders fold the top of a wave down. So you have a sine wave, and you, instead of clipping it off when the amplitude goes above 0, which gives you more or less a square wave, you can fold it down through some trick of it's doable in analog. It's not a digital trick. It's something I'm not smart enough to understand what's happening exactly, but instead of clipping, it folds it off, or folds it down, and so then you get these sort of Batman looking waves that have a very distinctive sort of rubbery, distorted, high frequency information. Last effect or sorry, the last operator type is effect, and this lets you put effects directly on the oscillator level, and it's a fairly limited. I mean, it's not every effect you've ever heard of, but two different kinds of EQ, a phaser, short delay, a comb filter, distortion, drive, decimate, wave shaper, and punch. Okay, so distortion is distortion and drive are, sort of different. I think distortion is clipping based, and drive just like kind of turns it up and gets kind of fuzzy or whatever. Decimator is a bit crusher kind of a deal, and then wave shaper puts them through some interesting wave shapers. This is a feature borrowed from the Korg O1W, which is an ancient Rompler that introduced this feature. It's pretty cool. It definitely allows for some weird sounds. And then the punch, I think it's some kind of compressor effect. It makes it punchy is what it does. I haven't used that one that much, but so those are the effects that you can add at the oscillator level. And so between these things, you can do some pretty wild effects here. And then let's do a quick tour of the interface real quick. So start off in this top mode thing here, and this offers a lot of control. You can select your algorithm. So it's got 40 algorithms, which includes the first 32 are the exact same algorithms that the DX7 had. Oh, did I say East Coast synthesis? Slop life? Yes, wave folders are part of West Coast synthesis, not East Coast. My bad. Anyway, okay, so yeah, so 32 algorithms, which are the same as the DX7 algorithms. If you are a DX7 person, you will recognize these. And then an additional 8 algorithms, which I think are similar to ones that were in the SY77, or maybe the like Korg EX5, just a later, not Korg, Yamaha EX5, a later Yamaha FM synth. They just offer some additional variations. And then you also have this matrix here where you can do your own, basically roll your own algorithms, determine what's modifying what, in what order, etc., to what degree. Not messed much with this, but I know that you can get pretty wild with this stuff here, do some feedback stuff and whatnot. Okay, so each of these operators has sort of a similar control set here. From this mode window, you can select what type of operator it is, an FM operator, one of these other types we talked about. You can select the waveform. So it's got, your basic sine, triangle, saw, etc. A couple of lo-fi 12 8-bit signs. This is in part for replicating sounds from other Yamaha vintage synths, like the FB01 or Sound Blaster sounds with the 8-bit. Just basically so you can get into those ranges without having to use an effect. So it's kind of nice. You don't have to use the bit crusher or whatever to do that. Triangle saw HD, and square HD, I think, are more computationally intensive versions of these. I know they have lower polyphony when you use these that are, I guess they're more accurate representations. I don't know, whatever. There's an additive saw, additive square, additive triangle. So these are some additive style waveforms that replicate the classic shapes, and then just some additive, 1 plus 2. So a sine wave plus the second harmonic, 1 plus 3, sine wave plus the third harmonic, 4, same deal with the fourth, fifth, etc., 6th, 7th, 8th. Just adds harmonics on that. There's a couple different varieties of noise, a sample and hold noise, white, pink, and blue, right? And those are all options for the waveform shape. And then level control here, ratio, so this is the tuning, right, for FM. The width, so this controls the width of your waveform. So you get like let me see if I can show you a very pulse-like sine. And if you have a square wave, You can do some pulse width style modulation with that as well, or with triangle as well. I mean, I think this works with any wave, but you get some kind of familiar effects with some of the things that you've seen before, and then less familiar with things. So I mean, as you can see already, like, we haven't even gotten into the FM style or side of it yet, and you've already got a pretty intriguing synth. And then you have the feedback option here. Every oscillator can feedback no matter what its configuration in the chain, which is pretty cool. Not all synths can do that. And as you can see, with just that, you can get some pretty wild. You know, get all the way into noise with just feedback on a saw wave oscillator. And if you put a sine in here, you can get a saw wave at around 67, and they keep going, and you get into noise here too, but kind of a different flavor of noise. Yeah, opsix is. I have not played with the wave state. I have the wave station plugin, which is the older, you know, it's kind of grandfather, and it's great. But yeah, I think this whole series is actually pretty cool. Okay, so then next control block is the pitch. And there's some overlap between these control sets. You'll notice that these top things are all the same, so that doesn't change. But you can now add fine tuning on the pitch and also detune the oscillators from each other. So that's fun. And then you can also transpose them up, down notes, octaves, whatever, right? Okay. Here's the pitch mod screen. So again, the top block stays the same. You can right LFO1. Right LFO1 is for vibrato, and it's controlled by the wheel, right? So you go. You open the mod wheel, you get vibrato. Close the mod wheel, vibrato goes away, right? And you can do that with aftertouch. You could do it with a different, another envelope, whatever. Turn that off. Turn this off. And then velocity as well. So you can use velocity. So if you hit it harder, like if you're doing a drum sound, for example, the harder you hit a drum, the more of a pitch bend you get. And right? Okay, so that's the pitch controls. Now we got a level mod, basically the same control, similar set of controls, but for the level mod. And here you have velocity on this. So how much velocity is going to affect each operator, and then LFO for if you want tremolo style effects, and you know, whatever you're using to control how much of that LFO. And this is also LFO1 that's hardwired to this. There's a mod matrix later. We'll get into that in a second. Envelopes, ADSR envelopes with curve. Like they have, looks like a bunch of different assignable curves, various. And that's for the decay and release, the attack, and the attack one is just linear, right? But you can affect the curves of the decay and release stages. So ADSR type envelopes, you got 5 of them, or 6 of them rather, one dedicated to each operator's amplitude. And then the key tracking. So you can do quite complex key tracking schemes because there's a breakpoint and high and low. This is similar to what was on the DX7. I find that I very rarely need to have anything this complex. I don't mess with this stuff too much, but if that's something that you're super into, you should know that it's there, right? Okay, and then so that's it for the operator controls. Choose algorithm, choose what kind of operators. Okay, then you have these sort of global controls down here. Here's your ARP and sequencer. It's got a pretty decent 16-step. It's nothing super special, but it's 16 steps, and you can do some like parameter lock kind of stuff in it, recording motion lanes, right? That's on hardware as well. Again, in a DAW, a lot of times you won't need to do this because you can automate everything in the DAW, but it's nice to have it on board in case you do want to do it that way. This is some global stuff. So this is algorithm feedback. This is in the DX7, it only had one feedback path, and this controls the feedback on the equivalent feedback path. It's set per. If you look at the algorithms, so here's the feedback path here, for example, on algorithm 4. It feeds back from the output all the way back to operator 6, whereas on algorithm 3, the output of 6 feeds back into the input of 6, right? Like it's just a shorter feedback path, and this has a longer feedback path. And that feedback is what's controlled here. And then again, each operator has its own feedback that operates independent of this. There's a lo-fi mode, so if you want to get the authentic DX7 style sounds, you can turn that on, and I think that just puts like a 12-bit, makes the output 12-bit like the original DX7 or 13-bit or whatever it was. You can have your oscillators stay in sync, phase lock the oscillator operators, or you can have them free or random. So free just means they freely run constantly, so whenever you hit a key, like it'll just be at whatever state that it's in. And random generates a random phase state on each one, so guaranteeing it'll always be, it'll always sound a little different. This is for randomization. You can select certain areas to randomize or randomize the whole thing. Pretty fancy stuff, right? You can do, this is a global glide here, right, for adding portamento, and then this is just global controls if you want to like tune the whole synth up an octave, or slow down your vibrato. It's just a nice little handy access to that. Over here you set the voice mode, poly, mono, or mono legato. Okay, and then here we have our remaining the arpeggiator. I went into the sequencer. It's got a handful of modes. It's not like a super high-end arpeggiator by any means, but there's a little variety here. It'll get the job done for some basic arpeggiation. Again, in a DAW, you probably have a arpeggiator plugin that come with your DAW, or something that you use, Cthulhu or whatever. I think that's an arpeggiator plugin, right? And so it won't matter. But this is, it's a perfectly functional, if not full, fancy, high-end featured arpeggiator. Okay, so you got a filter. So again, each of these can have a filter if that's what you want to do. Like you could build a 6-operator or 6-oscillator synth, each with its own filter, and then send them through this universal filter if that's what you wanted to do. So there's a lot of options. But for FM style, you can just stick this. Basically, comes after all your operators, get it mixed down to a single, voice, and then you can run it through this filter for further tuning. This is like a standard Korg filter, which is to say it sounds good. It's not super duper characterful in its default mode, but it does have an MS-20 emulation and a Poly 6 emulation. And otherwise, it does 12 and 24 low pass, high pass, band pass, and band reject. And then it also it's got a high pass MS-20, low pass MS-20, and a low pass Poly 6 model as well for variety. Control wise, you have cutoff and resonance, key tracking with a breakpoint similar to the key tracking for the pitch, and then dedicated modulation from envelope 2 and LFO 2. Okay. And you can dial that in here. And then here are your envelopes. So again, each operator has its own envelope. So there's 6 envelopes there. And then there's also 3 more ADSRs that you can assign to anything in addition to, these are hardwired essentially to the amplitude of the operators, although pretty sure, no, you cannot. Okay, I'm wrong. So you can only use these here, but you can use these anywhere, including on like the level, you know, so you can have two envelopes working on the level of your operators, or you know, pretty much anything is the short version of where it can go. It can go pretty much anywhere. Yeah, and these are also ADSR envelopes. They go from 90 seconds to yeah, 90, so 0 milliseconds to 90 seconds is what the range of them is. So, you know, I mean, not like ridiculous lengths, but you know, 90 seconds, a minute and a half. That's going to cover most of your needs, I'm thinking. And again, these also, you can adjust the curve. So these are pretty similar envelopes to what you get up here. And then you also have 3 LFOs, variable wave shapes, all your usual triangle, saw up, saw down, square, sine, sample and hold, and then some unusual stuff like guitar, exponential triangles, exponential saws, step random, random level time, saw up, down, plus. Yeah, so these are positive values only. So if you only want positive values, you can use these. So yeah, lots of pretty flexible LFOs, 3 of them, right? And then you have effects, 3 effects, nice variety of effects here, pretty much the usual stuff that you would expect. Your mod effects, chorus, phaser, unison, auto pan and tremolo. Oh, I guess is there. I may have spoken to. I said tremolo, but there's actually no tremolo. I was thinking of the. Yeah, you know what I was thinking of is the in Ableton, the auto pan is a tremolo as well. So forgive me. No tremolo, but you can do tremolo with LFO on the amp, on the things anyway. So you don't need it as an effect, I guess. Auto wah, rotary speaker, LFO fill. I mean, a bunch of different stuff that, in addition to the regular stuff, there's a bunch of extra stuff, right? Grain shifter, which is like a granular pitch shifter, guitar amp simulations, a bunch of different distortions and overdrives, you know, tempo synced delays, tempo synced auto pan with delay, tape echo that's synced, some varieties of reverb, early reflections for like just like a small room kind of effect, and then regular and shimmer reverbs, and even a spring reverb simulation. So pretty nice effect. And these are, you know, they're Korg effects. They're good. They're perfectly cromulent. They will get the job done. They're nice sweeteners for the patches. They're great. And each of these has, you know, multiple effects here. Like you would, you know, fairly comparable to any built-in effect on anything, right? And you can also modulate, like a lot of these, you know, FX1, parameter 1, right? You can modulate that with the, so it'll 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, 10 slots in the mod matrix. I've never filled it up. Don't forget, you also have all these dedicated ones over here, so you only need to use the mod matrix if there's something you can't do on a dedicated one. Yeah, and that's the generally the overview. Oh, one last thing. Sorry. Up here, you'll see there is a unison mode. You can do up to what, 8 voices unison. Control the detune, the stereo spread up here. So that is the general dealio there. Let's play some patches now. So these are some patches that I've made. Let's see, let's just go through the 2-up ones. I actually made these for the lesson that I did to show how much mileage you can get out of just 2 operators. Okay, so these are all like all these 2-up ones. Pretty simple sounds. but impressive because they all just use 2 operators. So again, I made these 2 op patches just to show as part of the lesson plan how much mileage you can get out of 2 operators. And they're also a decent showcase for, for somewhat the sounds that this thing can do. Okay, so now we are getting into 6 operator, the actual fully programmed sounds, right? And these I'll use, well, not all, but a lot of these use effects and whatnot as well. So there you hear some reverb. Maybe I should put in a little program here. This way you can... What is going on here? There we go. Sorry, I'm just whipping up a quick little sequence as a fake vocoder. This is also just straight FM. Kind of a nice industrial sound. Straight FM. Down. Straight FM. Okay, so this sound. This one uses, as you can see, excuse me, a much more complicated set of modulators and whatnot. So it's got ring mod, wave folders, filter FM, more filter FM, an effect oscillator, and then just some straight FM, which is just playing these are both playing fixed frequencies. So. And you can see that gets some pretty wild sounds. Looks like this one's mono, so we're not getting the chords, but... like a pad sound. This one uses a wave folder. Fake guitar sound, it's just FM. And kind of a keyboard sound. Another sort of metallic, industrial, straight FM. FM string synth. Alright, so this sound is my effort to build look at different ways to make solid waves, basically. Oh, and interesting, I might have... more industrial sounds. FM is really good for making industrial sounds. Oh, so here's a little sweep. Nice sort of growly, complex sleep. Uses a wave folder, some ring mod, a bunch of different effects here. One oscillator is basically just a saw-like kind of basic FM thing that gets pretty high, and then the second one uses all kind of business. Oops. So here, yeah, so we're using drive on this. So just basically this sine wave goes through the drive, which gives it some bite, a few more extra harmonics, right? And then that modifies this, and then that modifies, is ring modulating another sine wave with this ring mod shape. Okay. Sure. Why do you like this? So yeah, this is modifiable for, I don't even know what any of this means, but it looks cool. Look, it becomes a triangles like this, and then it's triangles like this. Exciting stuff. I had it on 13. And yeah, and then a wave folder here. And so maybe, you know, it's this one is based off it's called Eno's Exotic Pluck. It's based loosely off an FM patch that Brian Eno published in Keyboard Magazine a long time ago. I'm already tired of this sequence here. Yeah, the that sweep is pretty fat for sure. And then this is. FM's really good for basses. And also big, like, growly sub basses. I don't know. You probably need either headphones or monitors to hear that. Bunch of basses here. It's just kind of a nice, pretty key sound. Pretty, depending on what you consider pretty. Like, I like it. It's kind of, it's like a fuzzy. Almost Boards of Canada-esque. All right. I mean, I could show off patches all day. Interestingly, I don't know if this, let's see if there's some other stuff. Let's look at, does some percussion pretty well. Bells, plucks, string machine style sound. Nice stab. As I recall, this one needs the since this one's all controlled by the it's all the mod wheel. kind of a Hoover-esque patch. Not like a traditional Hoover, but it's kind of same spirit of that, right? Just like a keyboard sound. Quasi-harpsichord sound. Oh, here's some nice sweeps. For when you're doing Cosmish. Very spacious. Get lost off in the ether there, right? More fake guitar. Okay, maybe we should do oh, poo. Alright, let's just initialize a patch. You can ignore the name. I've initialized the patch, so this is just... That's interesting. Why is freaking out? My push is freaking out right now. It doesn't really matter. Doesn't like something that's going on with the opsix. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so let's real quick look at... Okay. So we've got this two-operator pair here, which I've used previously to show off the utility of FM. But let's see if we can show off what it looks like with the ring mod. Or with all the different things, right? So there's a ring mod. Open the mode here. This is the ring modulator depth, and this is the ring modulator sharp, right? You can get some different shapes. And so ring mod, you get the sum and difference. But yeah, you can definitely get some unusual, like if you're looking for bell sounds or weird organ sounds. Ring mod is your friend. Okay. Now filter. With filter you get, let's do a saw here, right? Because it's really hard to tell what's going on with the filter through with the sine wave, because it doesn't have harmonics to filter, right? Okay, so the filter option, you have, the controls are a little different. Obviously the ratio, the tuning is the same, right? And this is just the tuning for this. But instead of this modulating this, this is just going into this and getting mixed with this waveform. So, for example, if I were to tune this down to the normal thing, and we'll put a square oscillator here, turn it up to full. So here, when it's all the way to the left, you're hearing just the thing that's coming into it. So operator 2 in this case, the square wave. But it's all the way down, but we turn it all the way up, then you're just hearing that through the filter. And if you turn it all the way to the right, you're just hearing operator 1 through the filter. Well, you should be. I mean, it sounds like there's a little bleed, but and operator 1 is the sawtooth wave that we've picked, right? And then these are the controls for the filter. That's pretty much all the way open. So interestingly, the filter is defined in semitones, plus or minus from the bass. So I guess it's just like always key tracking. But you know, I adjust things by ear mostly, so I don't worry too much about. Hey, Dark Rabbi, thank you for coming by. Really appreciate it, and hopefully you can catch the rest later. We're almost done anyway. We're like 10 minutes away from being done. Just hopefully we can show off these different oscillator types before we run out of time. Okay, so yeah, that's the deal there. Yeah, let's see if you go mix here. So there you have your basic mix between, and you can detune them. And so this is like a pretty traditional subtractive kind of layout, right? Where you've got this operator, number 2, is producing a square wave. It goes into number 1. It's now mixed with this, which is a saw wave, and then goes through the filter there. So there's no FM going on because this is a this is a filter operator and not an FM operator, right? Makes sense? Makes sense, hopefully. Okay, then the next type is filter FM. Similar controls. Cutoff, resonance, except here, instead of mix, okay, so normal stuff, right? Sawtooth going through a filter. But now we're going to modulate it with square wave. So anyway, audio speed modulation of a filter, that's what that sounds like. Exciting stuff. Wave folder. Okay, so the same deal with the wave folder. It's no modulation here. It's mixing this. I'll go to sine wave here because saw waves don't wavefold that well. All right, so the mix all the way to the left is all the way to the right is the waveform of that operator. All the way to the left is the waveform coming in from the modulator input, and anywhere in the middle is some mix of those two, right? So there's your gain on the wave folder, determines how much folding has happened. You can see it's sine wave, and that's where the folding starts to happen. Starts to flatten out a little, and then the folds come in, and then more folds. Right? And then you can, if you wanted to mix the two, you can bias biases it above the center line or below the center line for different effects. Just something to play with. And then finally the effect. So let's turn this all the way down. So with the same deal, you're either mixing the built-in waveform, or this one is the one all modulator. This is all internal. And then so this is an EQ. I'll put it on put a saw wave on so you can hear it a little better. right? Parametric EQ. Shelving EQ. It's like a 2-band, you know, graphic or whatever. A phaser. Put a short delay on it. It's kind of hard to hear that what it's doing. Comb filter. Let's see if we can. There you go. You get some distinctive comb filtering style effects. That sounds like a comb, all right. Distortion. I think you all know what distortion does. You can see it clips it into a square wave pretty quick. Overdrive or drive, right? Same kind of deal. Slightly more gentle. Decimator. Bit rate, yada yada, and then the wave shapers. So these are interesting because you pick this wave shapers, and then they reshape the wave that goes through them into whatever shape the wave shaper is. So what comes out is this interesting mix of what goes in and the shape of the wave shaper. So this one's got a lot of depth. There's a lot here. This alone, there's a lot to it. And yeah, and then what really sets this apart, I think, is when you are mixing and matching all these different things. So you have a very basic, very easy to program FM synth, and then on top of it, it's yeah, I mean, it can basically be almost any synth in a lot of ways because Oscillator Sync he's a big fan of this synth, and he did a tutorial where he built a Juno 6 in this with using the user algorithms. He built a Juno 6 inside the opsix. So yeah, you can do crazy stuff with this thing. It is an incredible synth. It really is. And real quick, because we're almost out of time, I do want to just drag this up here so we can kind of look at it real quick. I'm a big fan of the hardware. I actually bought this software version sort of on an impulse buy last Christmas. So, you know, it's the reason I do these at Christmas. Like, I get it. This is a time when people are spending money either on themselves or on other people. Okay, so the hardware version, this right here is the biggest feature. So as you can see, the pink and red, or I'm sorry, the pink and blue or pink and purple, depending on how you perceive these colors. So you hear, these are the carriers, the pink ones, and the purple ones are the modulators, which visually is the most amazing freaking, like, you can just look at this and immediately know what's going on with your FM synth, which is not a thing that's very common amongst FM synths. And these control the level of each operator, right? And then this is for the tuning of each operator. And as you can probably see that here, it goes up. And it's like, this is the coarse tuning, by the way. You can for the fine tuning, you have to use the knobs, but still, it's pretty handy to do. And then these controls here, you've got operator select. So when you are programming your thing, you switch between operators with this. And then page between parameters with here. And then these control, there's 6 slots on screen. Each of these controls one of the slots, each of the knobs, right? And then these switch between your modes. And this interface, amazing. I hope I know I'm not really doing it justice. At some point I'll do a stream when I get set up with all my cameras and everything properly. I'll do a proper stream on the hardware version to really show it off. But I did just want to sort of touch on it. A hardware synth, a hardware FM synth. I do not wear synth, a hardware FM synth. I do not think you can do better than one of the opsix models. You can buy the opsix original used for as cheap as $300. I see them for $300 to $350 all the time locally. I bet wherever you are, unless you live in the middle of nowhere, there are also those locally. If you have to go on Reverb, you might pay as much as $400, but I don't think you'll pay more than that. And then there's the Mark IIs that are out now, which do have a higher polyphony count. If that's important to you, if you do giant chords, or if you're going to be using that unison mode a lot, that could be a big deal, but probably it doesn't matter to most people. And then, of course, the plugin, currently on sale for $99. So, this is the other plugin. I've showed off some different ones. If you're in the market to buy a new synth, and your budget is at least $100, which I feel like is where you start to get into the serious synths. There's a couple options below that are quote unquote serious synths as well, but $100 is where you start getting into stuff like pigments and this opsix and some other things like that. But yeah, if you have a budget of under $200, but over $50, so 100 to 150, I think that this is one of your best options. If you're into FM at all, this is your best option. If you're not into FM, then there are probably better options. This is primarily an FM synth, despite all the extra stuff that it has. But if you just like weird digital stuff too, like this is an incredible synth for that. Let me see if I can just show off a couple more. I mean, technically it's 1:30, so we should be done. But see, I mean, it does pretty sounds. String machine sounds. Bell sounds. Nice plucks. Anyway, I love this synth. I hope that I pass some of that love on to you. Thank you for everyone that stuck around. I didn't see too many questions, so hopefully I answered any that I did. If not, drop them in the comments and I will do a follow-up. I'll do a follow-up for you. I don't even care. Yeah, thank you all for coming in, hanging out. I hope you learned something about this synth. Hope that you got your questions answered, and I hope you have a great day and a great holiday if you are in the United States and you're about to do the food thing. If you are in the United States and you got family coming over, do talk politics. Do tell them what an asshole Trump is. Don't be cowed by trying to be nice. Like, time for that's done. Fucking flip the table, All right, sorry, just had to rant about that for a minute. See you all online. I am, after a short suspension, back on Blue Sky. You cannot tell people to eat shit and die on Blue Sky without getting suspended these days. So, to be fair, the guy absolutely fucking deserved it. But what are you going to do? All right, that's enough. I'll stop talking. I'll stop streaming. I will see you all in a week. And have a great holiday. Bye.